Hey, everybody, and welcome to School Sucks Live, the School Sucks radio show. I am Brett. Today is July 26, 2012. My guest tonight, I'm so glad to have her back on the show. The last time she was here, May 2nd, 2010. Remember those days? Kate Baker. How you doing, Kate?
I'm good. Glad to be here with you.
I'm glad to have you. It's good to be back. I think we're going to have a lot of fun tonight.
No, not at all.
Oh, yes. We have a lot of debate planned, I think.
But you can't plan a debate.
No?
No.
I plan debates.
Well, they should be spontaneous debates about things that come up, perhaps about education.
You don't go places and say, I'm going to debate somebody when I get there.
No.
Oh,
I go and I'm going to be nice to this person and meet people, hang around.
You sound like a very optimistic person. That's so. Can you this first segment? We're going to start something new, but can you just give us your upcoming job title real quick, and we'll explain a little bit
talk about that right away like that? Okay, I'm going to be in about a week to 2 weeks the executive director of the Network for Educational Opportunity.
Excellent. So today on the show, we are going to talk about what that network is and what their goals are. First, in this first segment, we are going to try something new, and this is going to
I don't like new things. I don't like change.
You're a pioneer here.
I forgot. I'm sorry. That's right. I'm revolutionary.
There is something called cognitive biases. And what is a cognitive bias? First, I just want to give you an introduction to this topic. Cognitive biases are psychological tendencies that cause the human brain to draw incorrect conclusions.
Can you say that again?
Cognitive biases are psychological tendencies that cause the human brain to draw incorrect conclusions. Now, depending on...
Psychological tendencies that cause the human brain to draw incorrect conclusions.
Indeed. So,
okay.
Now, depending on the list that you look at, there are any list will give you over 100 examples of cognitive bias. So what we're going to be devoting this first segment to for the next, I guess this will take us well into 2014, is one cognitive bias each time. And that will give everybody a week to process it, to think about it. Because I know we do have debates, even if they are purely accidental.
Sure.
And we might have had the experience in the past where we were talking to somebody about politics or education or religion.
We talk to people about stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, some kind of social issue, and we say, wait a minute, what the hell is wrong with you? Or we don't. Or
I don't say that.
We think it.
Nah, come on. Everybody's got to start somewhere, and what they think is as legitimate as what I think. I just might share information.
Well,
so they can kind of come along maybe or learn, but I wouldn't phrase it that way. I wouldn't say, I'm going to teach you something. Because you're not as, aware as me.
Sometimes it can be frustrating, though. And it can be frustrating for them, too, listening to maybe some of our positions. And what my point is that instead of having those really negative, confrontational types of discussions...
never. That doesn't work.
No.
You would never want to have a confrontational discussion with someone.
Right.
Then you lose automatically.
Yeah, and you can't embarrass somebody into agreeing with you. You can't shame somebody into agreeing with you. So I think it's very important that we become more aware. We've talked a lot about on this show doublespeak, logical fallacies, logical errors, but it's also worth exploring maybe some problems that not just other people, but maybe problems we have ourselves, some biases that we have, some things, some pre-packaged ideas that we bring to a conversation that we might not be evaluating as closely as we should. So that's why we're going to spend, the first segment of this show pretty much from now on discussing cognitive biases. So today is just an introduction. I gave you the definition, psychological tendencies that cause the human brain to draw incorrect conclusions. Such biases are thought to be a form of cognitive shortcut, often based upon rules of thumb and include errors in statistical judgment, social attribution, and memory. These biases are a common outcome of human thought and are often drastically skew the reliability of anecdotal and legal evidence. The phenomenon is studied in cognitive science and social psychology. Now,
it's natural human behavior.
Pretty much.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean it's something that can't be overcome if you understand it and learn how to correct it.
If you want to be logical, then you should think about your bias.
Thinking, metacognition.
Yeah.
So these are things that ultimately can be corrected, but they're things that need to be understood. And I'm sure that as we go through this list, I'm going to find a lot of things that I'm doing as well. You know, I'm sure I have plenty of cognitive bias.
I mean, of course.
And
sounds like it's normal human behavior.
They say this is often shows up in the courtroom. You just heard legal evidence when people are giving eyewitness testimony, which is always considered to be incredibly reliable. But memories can be affected by a person's perception, a person's beliefs.
Your memory is your perception.
Absolutely. So that's why I wanted to touch on this today. And the first example, well, the resource that I'm using is from scrib.com, and it's Cognitive Biases, a Visual Study Guide. I'll put this in a link in the show notes if you want to skip ahead, but I really don't recommend people skip ahead. I want everyone to stay with the class. Don't try to get too far ahead. That's what they say in school. No skipping ahead. Oh, Kate's skipping way ahead. So they break them into 4 categories here: social biases, memory biases, decision-making biases, and probability and belief biases. So they have those 4 categories. And I thought today we would start with memory biases. And the first one is called suggestibility. And the timing of this one is interesting. So let me tell you a little bit about suggestibility. And we can talk about it for a minute before we move on to other stuff in the show. So suggestibility is the quality of being inclined to accept and act on the suggestions of others. A person experiencing intense emotions tends to be more receptive to ideas and therefore more suggestible. Generally, suggestibility decreases as age increases. However, psychologists have found that individual levels of self-esteem, assertiveness, and other qualities can make some people more suggestible than others, which has resulted in the concept of a spectrum of suggestibility. Some people can be more suggestible than others. And it's also like...
but it's not related to intellect.
Not necessarily,
it's
no.
related to emotional state.
It could be... I would have to think that not necessarily maybe a person's IQ or intellectual abilities, but I think that their critical thinking skills, their intellectual self-defense might have something to do with it.
Okay.
Because I know people who are incredibly smart, but if something comes out of that television,
Never.
I mean, people who in their private lives, in their personal lives, in their professional lives, are just very, very talented and have, some very impressive aptitudes.
But they're believing what they see on TV.
Right. Now, that has something to do with critical thinking, but it also has to do with, I think, an emotional comfort zone. And what I thought was interesting, where it says in the definition here that people experiencing intense emotions tend to be more receptive to ideas and therefore more suggestible.
Except anger, maybe. No?
Oh, I think anger, fear would
Yeah?
be very powerful emotions in making a person suggestible.
Okay.
Depending on, if maybe not the person they were angry at.
Well, right, because if
making
I
a
was angry at you, I would be less likely to listen to you.
Right.
Okay.
But if you were angry at somebody else and I came to you and said, boy, that so-and-so that you're angry at is a real D word or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you'd say, yeah, and maybe you and I get a connection, and then I can be, from being on your side.
And you could be very influential.
From being in your corner.
Yeah.
You become suggestible to me. So I always think about, when I first read this anyway, and it's something that I think about a lot whenever something happens in the media. And I'm not, I'm not paranoid, but when I heard Barack Obama's chief of staff, his name was Rahm Emanuel, say, you never let a crisis go to waste.
Can I make the puking sound?
Now, yeah, sure. It's very appropriate here. So
Gross.
I don't know how much
That's horrifying.
Emanuel has studied propaganda, the manipulation of public opinion. If he got to be chief of staff of a president before the age of 45, I'd say he's at least probably a little bit well-versed in this subject. But that's suggestibility. So from now on, the first segment, we're going to talk about cognitive biases. That's the first one, if you want to keep a little notebook. Suggestibility, inclined to accept and act on the suggestions of others. This is School Sucks Live. I'll be right back with Kate Baker.